The evolution of the Saab 900 continues.
Back in 1978, Swedish automaker Saab introduced the 900, based on its long-running 99 model. Its quirky love-it-or-hate-it styling was instantly recognizable as a Saab, and its high regard for both safety and performance helped them capture a loyal niche market. But as a result of Saab's eventual takeover by General Motors, the 900 and its successor, the 93, struggled to keep Saab's legacy intact, resulting in the 93 being Saab's final car. This is the story of the Saab 900 and 93. This is my old car.
As you can see, we still don't do things like everybody else does. The new Saab 900, the very Saab.
Thanks for the many suggestions to review cars from Saab. I hope to review other Saab models, or maybe their entire automotive division from the 1980s onward, in a future episode. Saab had been building aircraft long before their first cars were released in 1949. However, as I noted in my introduction, the Saab 900, and really most any Saab car back in the 70s and 80s, weren't so much known by the general public for having their parent company also build aircraft, but instead that their cars were, well, a bit odd-looking. I will freely admit that when I was a teenager in America in the 80s, I wasn't a fan of Saab cars.
Whoa! Hang on. What the hell are you doing, Jack? What the f***?
But I realize now that maybe I thought they looked weird because so many 80s cars were boxy and frankly boring. I have since grown to more appreciate quirky cars, and Saabs fit the bill, and not just by how they looked. Although the 900 was based on the 99, it didn't directly replace it at first, with the 99's production continuing until 1984. Upon its release in 1978 as a 1979 model, initially the 900 was only offered in what Saab called the Combi Coupe, which was a 3 or 5-door hatchback, which in turn eliminated the Combi Coupe offering on the 99. Powering both the 99 and 900 was Saab's B engine, an inline 4-cylinder typically referred to as a slant 4, due to the cylinders being tilted at a 45-degree angle. This engine, originally designed by UK automaker Triumph back in the early 1960s, was also rotated 180 degrees with the clutch in front of the engine and the transmission below, making it effectively a transaxle. A turbocharged version of the B engine was first introduced in 1978 on the 99 and would quickly become the most desired option on the 900, having almost 50% more horsepower than the base model. The turbo initially had its own unique grille that would later carry over to all 900s, and other Saab models would have a similar grille for years to come. Saab's aircraft production helped inspire features in its cars, such as wraparound windshields to improve visibility, and the dashboard was designed to allow the most commonly used controls to be in easy access to the driver, most notably the radio. The driver could even turn off the backlighting on most of the dashboard, called the black panel feature, leaving just the speedometer and warning lights visible. Pilots found such a feature helpful in aircraft to decrease distraction, and Saab engineers figured it would also be helpful in their cars as well. Other unusual quirks were the front hood that unlatched in the front, but then tilted forward and then upward, which made it easier to access key components in an engine that was sitting backwards. Another quirk was that the ignition key was located between the front seats, not on the steering column, to prevent the driver's knee from hitting it during an accident. And you couldn't remove the key until the car was shifted into reverse, to help ensure the car wouldn't roll away if you forgot to set the parking brake. But the 900's most notable feature, which also carried over from the 99, was its unique rear hatch design that became a trademark Saab look. When the 4-door saloon model debuted in 1980, the same basic shape remained, despite the rear window no longer being part of a hatchback. By 1981, the B engine was replaced with Saab's new H engine, which although was lighter than the old model, still maintained the original Triumph design. 1984 saw the introduction of the Aero model in Europe, although the same version was called the SPG, or Special Performance Group, in North America. The turbo, now rated at 175 horsepower compared to the older model's 145, gained 2 more valves per cylinder and also got an intercooler, the latter not typically needed in Sweden's colder climate, but proved to be a huge benefit most anywhere else. Also in 1984, Saab made the decision to begin building a convertible model of the 900, following a very positive response to a prototype built the year before by American Sunroof Corporation, or ASC. What initially was going to be a limited production model eventually became a popular and now classic version of the 900, with almost 49,000 built between 1986 and 1994. However, Saab couldn't escape the continuing trend that its well-engineered cars were simply not popular enough, and were losing money on every one sold.
Only one aircraft manufacturer makes cars. Sierra, Alpha, Alpha, Bravo. Saab.
In 1989, Saab's automotive division was restructured, with 50% held by General Motors. With GM's financial backing, 1993 marked the end of what is now considered the classic 900, although the convertible remained on the old platform for one additional year. Its replacement became known as the 900 NG, with the NG standing for New Generation. Although for those loyal to the original 900, the NG really wasn't a Saab anymore.
The engine's really the only thing that needs checking.
You've been rotating the tires?
Try to.
You don't try to, you do it.
The new 900, which although still had the distinctive Saab rear roofline, was now built on GM's 2900 platform, shared with the Opel Vectra and Vauxhall Cavalier. This same platform was also used for GM's Holden line in Australia, and was even the basis for the Saturn L Series by the year 2000. By 1995, this takeover by GM was looking like a good decision, at least financially, with Saab earning its first profit in 7 years. But earning money meant Saab ultimately had to sacrifice their noble but costly extreme commitment to quality in their cars. Although the 900 was now sharing a GM-designed platform, you could still get it with a Saab-designed 16-valve 4, but now it also offered a GM-designed V6. It also switched to a more common transverse-mounted engine and rear-hinged hood. GM also worked to reposition Saab as a luxury brand, making it more expensive than its Opel and Vauxhall platform mates. Several improvements were made to the 900 up through 1998, when it was officially renamed the Saab 9-3. This is possibly the only car whose name on the badging looks different than how it is typically written. Although Saab once had a model called the 93 back in the 1950s, the badging on this new version had the 9 larger than the 3. To those who didn't pay much attention to cars, they may have thought the name was 93, or maybe even 9 cubed, which is what I jokingly called it back then. And yes, in case you're wondering, I also purposely misstated the Saab 9.5, which replaced the Saab 9000 the year before, calling it the 9 to the 5th power. Yeah, okay, but I thought it was funny back then. Starting in 1999, Saab offered a higher performance version of the 9.3, called the Viggen, named after one of their aircraft models. The Viggen, which in English means Thunderbolt, only had 4,600 units produced, and had Saab's 2.3-liter 4, but now with a turbocharger provided by Mitsubishi, making 230 horsepower. As part of the deal GM made when buying 50% of Saab in 1989, they had the option to acquire the remainder of Saab by the year 2000, and they did just that, spending $125 million to make Saab a wholly owned subsidiary of General Motors. By 2002, a new 9.3 concept, called the 9.3X, debuted, now built on GM's Epsilon platform, which in addition to the Opel Vectra, would be shared with the Chevy Malibu, Pontiac G6, and the Saturn Aura in the US, and also with the Cadillac BLS, which was sold in Europe and was essentially a rebadged 9.3, built alongside the 9.3 and 9.5 in Sweden. Although it was bad enough that Saab, which GM still touted as a luxury brand, was sharing platforms with entry-level Chevys and Pontiacs, the Saab faithful received yet another blow when the second-gen 9.3 dropped the iconic hatchback that had been synonymous with Saab for decades. By 2006, they offered a wagon model to fill this gap, but it further drifted from the iconic Saab look. Also gone was a Saab-designed 16-valve 4, replaced with several variants of GM Ecotec engines, mostly turbocharged inline 4s, as well as a turbocharged V6. Worse yet, the entire Saab line was becoming nothing more than rebadges, with models such as the Saab 9.2X, which was a rebadged Subaru Impreza, and the 9.7X, which was on the GMT 360 platform, shared with the Chevy Trailblazer, GMC Envoy, Isuzu Ascender, Buick Rainier, and Oldsmobile Bravada. Ironically, Saab's commercials continue to use the tagline "Born from Jets," trying to associate its cars with Saab's aircraft production, even though their cars no longer had any connection to Saab's aeronautical past. Saab still tried to make as many changes as they could to differentiate the 9.3 from the other Epsilon cars, often against what GM had directed, making GM's Saab division one of its most costly.
They changed so much that even the wheelbase was different.
A significant refresh of the 9.3 was completed for the 2008 model year, in which Saab claimed over 2,000 changes had been made, including an all-wheel drive version called the XWD Turbo X, although this option was dropped a year later. They even unveiled an electric car concept called the 9.3 e-Power in 2010. All this was done despite GM announcing by the end of 2008 that Saab was under review, a nice way of saying GM was either planning to sell Saab or shut them down. Saab almost got bailed out by fellow Swedish automaker Koenigsegg in 2009, but that deal fell through later that same year. In 2010, GM agreed to sell Saab to Dutch automaker Spyker, and Spyker was even willing to sell their sports car division to focus on Saab, and include Saab in their company name. But by 2011, the money ran out and that deal fell through as well. Joint ventures were attempted with 2 different Chinese automakers, which also failed. Ultimately, Saab was forced into liquidation in April of 2012. But the Saab name still wasn't dead yet. In June of 2012, National Electric Vehicle Sweden, or NEVS, which despite its name was Chinese-owned, announced a deal to resurrect the Saab 9.3 as an electric vehicle, and also bring back the gas-powered version, renaming it the Phoenix. The first electric 9.3 vehicle, built in a former Saab factory, came off the assembly line in September of 2013, but production was halted by May of 2014 as NEVS ran out of money, and they too went into bankruptcy. As part of that deal, NEVS lost a licensing agreement to sell any more cars under the Saab name. NEVS later acquired new financing to begin building cars again by 2017, but they could no longer be branded as a Saab. Although it took until 2014 for the Saab name to no longer be affixed to any car, most fans of the original Saab agree that it was just a shell of its former self following GM's takeover in 2000. The original Saab 900 was a quirky but generally loved car by its loyal fans.
Oh man, that is a great car, man.
But by the time it became the 9.3, it was forced to become more mainstream in an effort to survive, which ultimately turned away many potential buyers who knew the Saabs of the past were never coming back. But I suspect a few of the 9.3 models will remain preserved and will eventually become a hit at future car shows, just like some 80s cars are today. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the like button and subscribe to my channel. If you once owned a car from the 80s to mid-2000s that you rarely see today and would like it featured in a future episode, leave a reply in the comments or contact me at the email shown here. See you next time.
I'm glad I cut you off because Black Saab rules!